All right. This is Chris Falcon, and you are listening to The Rebel Mindset. I am here today at MediaPods. Go to MediaPods.com with one of my favorite people, a man that I call the doctor, trial lawyer, Dominic Fichera. Dom, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
We've been lucky because I've had a chance to spend some time with you over the past few years, but it's always been in the gym when there's sweat. Now you are wearing the sport coat. I mean, you're done up.
I don't look athletic here.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the big hands, tell you that you shouldn't be messed with. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Thank you for coming, man. Thank you for being on the show.
I really enjoy. I think I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, I hope so. Part of the reason why, I wanted to bring you on here and talk to you is because your story to me is awesome. And all the time that we've spent together, I've learned a ton. I actually have on my phone, it's not on this one, but my other phone, I got a new one. And there's a whole page in my notes that's just called Dom Notes.
Oh, my God.
Okay. And I've been writing down all types of stuff that you said. But I mean, I've learned so much spending time with you. And so I think there's a lot that our listeners can learn from you. And a lot that just comes from just the story and the life that you've lived. But right now, you are a trial lawyer. You are all of what? You're about 27 years old, right?
Just barely.
Just barely. You've been around the block a couple times, but you're still working.
Yes, I am still working, but I'm not trying cases any longer. It's really for young people. I'm no longer that.
Yeah. But you're still working a little bit.
Still
you're still
working,
getting out
still
there.
working and doing my thing. Yes, other than trying cases, it's too exhausting.
Yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of energy involved in that. But I mean, you became an attorney. You've been a successful trial lawyer for how many years?
Since 1962.
Okay, so you're going to say 62. People listening to this are not going to be able to do the math.
Why should we do that?
I know.
That's too bad for them.
They're not going to be able to do that. But you've been doing this for a long time.
Over 50
Over
years.
50 years. Yeah, you've been doing it for a long time. But that's kind of what's been happening the last 50 years. I mean, a lot happened to get you to that point of becoming a trial lawyer, an attorney, going to law school and everything. I mean, you grew up in what you call the neighborhood.
Yes.
I love it. I hear that all the time. That I grew up in the neighborhood. What does that even mean when people say the neighborhood?
My neighborhood was primarily Italian, probably more specifically Sicilian Americans whose parents came over in the early 20th century from little towns in Sicily. Good food. Good people, hardworking people.
I'm liking the neighborhood already.
Yeah.
But growing up in the neighborhood wasn't just amazing food from Italy and good people. I mean, there was a roughness to growing up in the neighborhood.
Yes, just like today in many neighborhoods, you start from the bottom and you work your way up, and sometimes it requires more energy than normal.
Yeah, for some people, it definitely requires a little more energy.
Yeah.
I love when you tell me about the neighborhood and the professions that everyone at that time, the young people, thought they were either going to be a ball player or...
Ball player, a singer, or a boxer.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah. Those were the professions.
Those are the only people that they could identify with, really.
Right.
Since then, of course, a lot has happened.
Right.
But at that time, that's Joe DiMaggio, Rocky Graziano, or one of those people.
But still similar to a lot of people growing up in neighborhoods, today where things might be a little tough. I mean, then you're talking about a lot of immigrants that came to this country with, probably nothing more than just their work ethic, and then turned that into something, but they had to scrap for it. And, still looking at a lot of neighborhoods today where people are scrapping for survival and trying to make something.
It's the same thing.
Their idols and the people they look at are ball players, singers, performers.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So it's really not that different from the state of how a lot of communities are now.
We got to remember, people in that socioeconomic strata, that's who they see. They don't see corporate executives. They see ball players and singers and boxers. That's what they're interested in. So that's what they see. That's what they want to be.
Right.
It gets them out of the neighborhood.
Right. And that's what you saw. But you became a trial lawyer.
Yes.
Which is fascinating in itself. But that's not to say that you did not have your moment throwing fists. Can we share with people your secret for making it through the neighborhood and how you handled all those?
You're talking about myself?
Yeah, well, tell the story.
Okay. We used to, in the neighborhood, everyone, it was always king of the mountain, so you always had a prove yourself. So there were a lot of fights, and the kids used to fight all the time. And same with me. And we'd fight, and this one particular time, I'm throwing up a right, the fellow I'm fighting with, he's throwing a right, and our hands meet. And I heard a crunch. And I said, what the hell was that about? It turned out that he hurt his hand pretty bad. I couldn't figure out why. He had a very small hand, I've got a very large hand. So I thought about that. I said, I'm going to look at their hands when I fight them. Because if their hands are smaller than mine, I'll go up for their hands first. Because once they hit them, they can't fight anymore. So it worked out pretty good.
You know what? Hands of stone, Dom Fichera. Okay, and the man's got. I know you guys can't see it here when you're listening, but the man's got big hands. But that makes me think of something that I learned in kind of like my whole world of self-defense and combat training, which is defang the snake. Okay, and that's what they call that. So if you take the fangs out of the snake,
very good.
It's kind of harmless. And so you go ahead and you crush the hand.
You got nothing to work with.
Now what's he going to do?
Right.
So defang that snake and take a lot of the bite out of that. But growing up in the neighborhood, you had to do something interesting because you needed to defang kind of the neighborhood and the grips and the challenges of where you came from, which is that everyone was scrapping for their time in the sun. Everyone's really fighting for it. You did not become a boxer, although you beat down a bunch of guys on the street. You did not become a singer, and I'm not going to go ahead and say that you couldn't have been a ball player. And I know you actually can sing. I've heard you sing. But you ended up going to school. You ended up getting an education and being a really successful lawyer. How did you kind of push off into that kind of more academic realm? And what were some of the challenges you faced on the way? Because you did some interesting jobs on your way to where you are today.
It was not my intent to be a lawyer. I never even thought about it. My father, however, pretty devious man, he asked me after I finished high school, he says, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go to college. He said, what do you want to do in college? I said, I don't know. And he says, if you become a lawyer and you want to go in business, law is good for business. And I said, well, that sounds good. And I didn't realize it. My dad was what prompted this in his part. My father was a barber downtown. At that time was on 10 North Clark. And many of his customers were lawyers and judges and politicians. And he started respecting the lawyers. So back in his mind, he was hoping that he could have a son that was a lawyer. And we never discussed it. But he threw that out to me, and I said, that sounds like a pretty good idea. So I started thinking about law, and that's what happened.
And that's how it all happened?
Yes.
Okay, and so, but you, in this whole crazy journey to where you are now, I mean, there was law, but there was also, I mean, you fought for a country. I mean, you served.
Yes.
Also. When did that happen?
1956, I went in the Army, Germany, from 56 to 58 during the Cold War.
Wow.
And enjoyed it. To be honest with you, the German people were fantastic. The Second World War had been over for about 10 years, and so we were part of the occupation troops. And I was with the military intelligence. So it was called a order of battle specialist. We had to find out where the troops were, the East German and Czech troops, where they were, what they were consisted of, what their propensities were. What their leaders, the propensity of their leaders, that sort of thing. So it's very interesting. We talked to a lot of the people coming over. We had a lot of assets that would come over and give us information about the Czech and East German positions.
Can you still speak some German?
Bisslich. I ain't Bisslich.
What'd you just call me?
I did get to learn some German. It was, again, the people were just extraordinarily nice to us.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, but I mean, doing that, I mean, you were doing intelligence work.
Yes.
Which means you can't really be a dummy.
No, let's hope that's
right.
The case.
I mean, dummies doing intelligence work. I don't know if that really.
We a lot of people think it's oxymoron, but it really isn't. The people in our units were some of the smartest people I have ever met.
Right.
We have people that were able to write and read 3-4 languages, speak 8 languages. They were extraordinary. People, yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, you ended up in that division for a reason. You ended up doing that for a reason because, I mean, you were probably a smart guy, your entire life.
I never thought about it. I really never thought I was smart. I'll tell you why. My primary language was not English. My primary language, I learned English and Sicilian about the same time. My mother and father both worked, so we were raised by my grandmother. Right. So 3 boys was sort of difficult for her, but we couldn't communicate with her in English because she spoke no English. So we learned Sicilian, it's sort of a dialect of Italian. We learned, and I learned that in English about the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and my mother and father, although they spoke English, they were born there in Sicily, so their English was not the king's best or the queen's best. Whatever.
It's so amazing. I mean, I come from, I'm first generation here as well. My mom came from Cuba, my whole family. And so, there's a work ethic, that comes, with people in that situation, because you're not fighting to have more. You're fighting to have, period, and survive. And then with that, as you start to get established, you push. But I mean, people come here, they don't speak the language. They've got kids. They're immersed in a culture, in an area where they don't necessarily know what's going on, and still yet they push and they own a shop. They start doing something for themselves. And that taps into something that you talked about with me all the time. And I always, again, like I told you, love the time we spent together. But perseverance, and this idea of fighting for something, even in the face of adversity, continuing to fight, even when the successes and the fruits of your labors don't just come to you so easily the way some of maybe our millennials want. I mean, that's something that was kind of ingrained in this immigrant mentality of how to be in the neighborhood, which is this perseverance.
They had no choice, you remember.
Well, right, you have no choice.
They didn't say we're going to do this rather than be vice president of the corporation. So they had to. And those that were able to, they went a little further. And some that were not, things changed differently for them.
Right, which is fascinating. And I love that you brought that up about not having a choice, because right now, most of our listeners, and a lot of us here in this country, and of course, we can talk about the people that are less fortunate, but we have a lot of choices. And it's almost harder now because you get to choose. We get to choose whether or not we want to do this or that. People get to choose whether or not they want to live today or not live today. Mm-hmm. In other places of the world, that's not an option. You're just trying to survive. You have no choice. But in this world where we have so many options, how does somebody develop that work ethic, that ability to persevere and not back down in the face of adversity, when there's so many options and so many opportunities to do so? Where do you get that type of mentality and that type of fortitude in 2018?
I've thought about that in this regard. I know a lot of people who've been born with a lot, okay? And they still work very hard, and they do good things, and they're possessed by what they want to do. I've always, to me, I appreciate them more than I do some poor fellow that has no other choice other than to try to persevere. You got some guy has a choice. He can say, forget about it, I'm going to stay home and be a bum because I'm going to be fed anyway. Those people I really respect greatly. And not enough is said about those people.
Is it just greed that's driving them? Because they already have such a big slice. Yeah. I want more. I want the whole pie.
Well, but these people, the ones I'm talking about, money is not what's driving them. It's just they want to accomplish things. The mindset is they want to accomplish something on their own. And I don't think money has anything to do with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that that's a large part of why it is that I'm doing this, is this idea of, okay, what can I accomplish with my life? Okay, and I've said this 100 times. I'm not here just to collect paper. I'm here to collect experiences. What can I accomplish with my life? But once you go ahead and you meditate on that, can I do that while being authentic and true to who I am? Do I have to sell out in order to accomplish the things that I want to do?
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part, right?
Yeah, it's easier for rich people to make that decision because they don't have to worry about feeding themselves and their family. I understand what you're saying. That's something to think about.
I mean, something that I feel, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Dom has always been Dom. I feel like you have been able to take your path and do what you're able to do what you've done, but I feel like you probably have not changed so much. You've been authentically who you are this entire time.
Probably. I'm sure I've faltered on occasion. I'd have to think about it for a while. But I like to believe I'm honest.
Okay. Does that come from your parents?
I don't. My mother and father were extraordinary people. My father was a barber. My mother was a seamstress. She worked as a seamstress during the day, and at night she would make clothes and for wealthy people on the Lakeshore Drive. My father was a barber downtown, and then in the evening he'd work as a exterminator. So that's why my grandmother, we spent so much time with my grandmother, because they needed her to watch us.
Right.
And she had a hard time with us 3 boys in the old neighborhood. She used to slow us down. I realized it later. I didn't realize it at the time. She used to feed us Pepsi Cola, and she put red wine in there. So to slow us down, I thought she did because she was making us feel like big shots, but actually she was doing it for her own peace of mind.
Did it work?
It did work.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you telling me that I should turn my kids into drunks?
I think so. That may work.
All right, guys, you're getting some Merlot tonight. That's amazing. I don't know. That's an old world trick, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to bring that into today. You know, one thing that has always stuck with me that you told me was the story about Brother Leo.
Brother Leo.
The Brother Leo. And where did you go to school? That was over at
St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick's.
Downtown. There's no longer a school there. St. Patrick has moved up to the northwest side.
Okay.
Addison and Austin Boulevard. But back when I went to school, it was in Des Plaines where the church is now.
Okay.
It was quite a place. The Christian Brothers, there's 2 Christian brothers. This is the French Christian Brothers, and these were all neat guys. They're good athletes, and they were secure, really secure. You know, if you had a problem with them, if you wanted to go and ring with them and fight, that's fine. That's no problem. Or if you want to play basketball, rough style basketball against them, you can do that too. Get out your frustrations. You want to beat up one of the Christian brothers who's teaching you during the day, you could do it playing basketball or boxing with them. They were unusual, but just nice, neat guys. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Different world. But I mean, I remember the story you told me about the Brother Leo. I mean, you know, it happens all the time, you know, that we want to accomplish something like you talk about. We don't know where to start.
Yeah. Brother Leo was a real mentor.
But Brother Leo, he came in there, and there was that moment when he found you sitting there. You tell this story.
Yeah, we used to, I played basketball for St. Pat's, and after class, we go in and get ready for basketball practice, but there was already be some function going on in the gym, so we sometimes had to wait until that was over with. So this particular day, I gotten dressed to practice and laid on one of the benches and just doing nothing. Brother Leo came in. He says, "Mr. Fichera, what are you doing?" I says, "I'm waiting." He says, "What are you waiting for?" I said, "I'm waiting for them to be finished on the floor so we can practice." He said, "Well, why are you wasting this time?" I said, "Well, we'll probably be out there in about 5-10 minutes." He says, 5-10 minutes is important. Well, you should be starting your homework. And I said, "But I'm not going to get much done." He says, "If you just get your name on the paper, that's the beginning." So I thought about that, and he left. I took out my books, and I started doing my homework. And they were later than we thought they were going to be. By the time we were ready to go out there, I was finished with my homework. I said, "You know, that Brother Leo, he's a pretty sharp guy."
Right.
So I thought about that, and you got something to do, start doing it. There's no reason to wait. Do it now. And even, again, only if you get your name on the paper, that's an accomplishment. Yes.
Well, I mean, that is so profound to me. Yeah. It is so profound because here you were, a young man. You were analyzing the situation at hand. You thought you had 5 or 10 minutes, okay? And you were looking at the end result. Well, I'm not going to get all of my homework done in this amount of time. So therefore, I'm going to do nothing. I can't possibly achieve this dream or open this business or do whatever it is.
Very good.
Because right now, in this current moment, I only have 5 to 10 minutes. Where the fact of the matter is, right now, you can put your name on the paper. You can start. Yeah. That's an incredible lesson.
It really is. I never thought of it at the time. I didn't think about it, but I've thought about it since then. And my life has been that way. You got something to do, start it. Get going. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, I probably have my name started on like 100 different pieces of paper.
Never got any further in your name.
At this point, maybe more than 100. But, you know, I do a lot of different things. But you and I are not all that different in that regard because, I mean, you're a man that, you know, obviously you have your professional career. But, I mean, you're also writing.
Yes,
Okay,
I love to write.
you've also, in addition to your writing for your articles in the paper that you submit, but you also write your screenplays, your storylines.
Yes, I enjoy doing that.
Right.
No one's ever taken it and given any money for it, but I've done it. But I've enjoyed doing it.
It doesn't matter. You're still doing it, right?
Yeah.
You're still getting it down, and you sing, and you're an active grandfather. And did you ever? And when you first came to me, your goal was to shoot your age.
I haven't done it.
You didn't do it. Well, that means you got to get back in the gym
or get older. Yeah.
or get older. One or the other. But I mean, how are you? Because I mean, you do have your name on a lot of, and you were talking about your memoirs, which I swear, if you don't write, I'll kill you.
I'm up to the age 13.
Okay, you got a lot more years.
My energy level's been going down.
Right, but I mean, you really have. You've diversified and you've done so many different things. I mean, you've put your name on so many different papers. I mean, how do you balance it all? How do you go ahead? How do you address the people that say, "Dom, why are you writing screenplays and why are you singing and why are you writing that article? Why don't you just do the one thing? What are you wasting all your time for?"
It's what I enjoy doing, to be honest with you. I enjoy writing. And I think if I had, interesting, when I was going to school early on, I took a class in writing. And the teacher told me, "You write very well. Why don't you write? Think about writing." And I brushed it off. I thought back. If I started writing at that time, I probably would have spent more time doing it.
Wow.
It's fun to do.
Well, you're a great writer.
Well,
I mean, is there any of your stuff? Because I mean, I know you've sent me some of your stuff over the time, and periodically you're in the paper. But is there any place for people to read any of your work or no? Is it archived anywhere?
No, I'm trying to get someone to set up a blog, start a blog, and maybe put some of my stuff out there. But I just I don't know how to do that. So
no. Well, I can help you with that too if you want.
Yeah.
You know what? The young generation, I mean, they know all these terms, blog and podcast and blogging and blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot going on, tons of ways to express yourself these days. It's crazy. But again, going back to this whole work ethic, and from your perspective, when you look at young people today, and this whole idea of perseverance, of pushing even when you're not getting the fruits of those labors and seeing the results. Just because you worked hard today doesn't mean you're going to be a CEO tomorrow. Like, what do you have to say? Do you have any messages for young people today when it comes to this idea of working hard for something? You didn't just become this successful trial lawyer overnight. You had to go to law school, and you also drove a taxi cab for 4 years. During this process, what words of wisdom does the wise Dominic Fichera have for us here?
I think if it's something you really, really want to do, I don't think that you need any prodding from anyone. That'll push you. I think the problem arises when you're doing something that you really don't like to do, but you have to do it because of one reason or another. And some people are there; they have no choice, But I did things. Sometimes I can't even remember why I did certain things. I just, at the time, I thought they were a good avenue and did it. And sometimes they worked out, sometimes they didn't work out. It wasn't a big deal to me, to be honest with you. If it didn't work out, just try something else.
I have this, and I don't even remember where I got it. I'm sure I read it somewhere, but there's this whole idea of, okay, you have to get it, want it, and be capable of it in order to achieve it. That's okay. You have to get what it takes to get there. Obviously, you have to want it, but you have to be capable, and I think that there's something to that. Are we all capable? I mean, you talked about, okay, well, if it's something you really want to do, you know what I mean, then, it'll take care of itself. But does it? Because I can want all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
But if I don't really get what it's going to take, I want to be a trial lawyer. I want to be a great trial lawyer. I'm sure you can tell me, I mean, of all the work that you needed to put into getting to that point. Now, are you capable of putting in that work, young man?
Sure, that's the problem, and you'll learn soon enough whether or not you're going to exert the energy. Because once you start going, you say, "Hey, this is too much." Then you turn and take another avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told me once that everybody's looking for their time in the sun.
Yeah.
I love those words. I don't know. You're gonna have to wrap that up into one of the blogs or do something like that. Everyone's looking for their time in the sun.
Well, they want to be acknowledged. They want people to know that they did something. I was watching one of those dance programs last night.
Were you?
Little girl. No, it wasn't. It was the other one. The
America's Got Talent.
America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
A young girl from from the Eastern Bloc countries. Her and her father did something, and they say, "Why are you doing this?" Well, I want people, when they see me in the store, they can say, "Oh, that's so and so." You know, acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too.
Yeah, it certainly is part of it. And I think some of us want that acknowledgement and we want that time in the sun, but we just want it for nothing.
Yeah.
Right? We think that we're just owed that, like we're entitled to have this. You know what? I took an awesome picture of myself today in the bathroom and I'm posting it online. And you better give me my time in the sun because it took me like 5 or 6 tries to get that angle.
Yeah, I never thought of it, but because I don't do that sort of thing.
You mean you're not on Facebook
I'm
and
not
Instagram?
On Facebook. I'm on Facebook, I understand, but
are you?
Yeah, someone told me I was on. But yes, that's the problem, and you see that now. Everyone wants instant gratification for doing nothing other than being, you know.
But I don't know at the same time where this quote-unquote real world is
I didn't
heading.
realize we were going to have a philosophical...
Dude, you know how we do this. There's not. I mean, you're sitting here. You hired me to take you through squats, and I was sitting here, and we turned it into Brother Leo rules.
Yeah.
So believe
that was
me,
sort of fun.
Yeah, you know how it is. This is how we do it.
By the way, this young man Tom that works with me now.
Yeah,
he's a deep thinker.
Oh yeah.
Yes, a lot of fun with him. By the way.
From what I know, a lot of attorneys are philosophy majors, or I should rather say a lot of people that are or were philosophy majors switch over and go to law school.
I was not a major in philosophy. I was a finance major, which is just the opposite.
Yeah, one thing, you know, and I read your article again, you know, on Take a Second Look.
Oh yes,
that's an awesome article, a great lesson. The importance of taking a second look. Let the audience know what that is. Why was it important for you first and foremost to write that?
The way it happened, my 2 granddaughters were got their driver's license, and you think about your grandkids, and you're worried about them driving and that sort of thing. So I was trying to figure something to help them out and maybe make me feel better. So I said to them, I said, listen, when you're starting to drive now, keep this in mind when you're coming out of a parking lot, you pull out in the street, look both ways, and then look both ways again. Take a second look. And when you're going to make a left-hand turn, the same thing. Take a second look. So that's what we discussed. And years later, I was thinking about that, and I said, taking a second look really applies to your life. If you're going to choose a profession you're going to spend the rest of your life at, is it worth it to take a second look to see that that's what you really want to do? When you make friends, you can have a friend, they take up a lot of your time, and you're going to be associated with that person. Don't you want to take a second look, make sure that's who you want to spend your time with? And then I wrote about not only that, but if you're going to pick a life's partner, you should not take a second look or a third or fourth look even, okay? So that's how the article came about. And fast forward, I was involved in an auto accident about 3-4 months ago on Sunset Ridge and Willow Road.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going east, and this young man's coming west. He turns in front of me, and he was in the left turn lane. And they said I went through the red light. It was actually yellow. So anyway, we got this accident, and we're going to go to court. And I said, I sent him a copy of my article. I said, if either of us had taken a second look, we wouldn't have this accident. So I sent him the whole article to read. He never showed up at court. I didn't have that. That was not an ulterior motive on my part sending the article. But taking a second look, I think about that often. I tell lawyers, take a second look on the case you're going to take, because a case sometimes that you don't take is the most important case you'll ever deal with, because handling a case that you're never going to win, and it's going to cost you a lot of time and a lot of money, you may not want to take it. So take a second look. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and that's a huge lesson. I mean, we're talking about taking a second look. Okay, there's looking what it is that I can see, and that's external stuff. Opportunities that come to you, all these things. But then there's this other side of it, like, take a second look inside as well. right?
Yes.
Of who it is that you are and who it is that you want to be and the type of person you're presenting to the world. Because that's equally as important to really take a second look. And I don't think that...
And it doesn't cost anything.
That doesn't cost a damn thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But what you receive in return can be massive. I don't think that we take enough time to periodically take a second look at who it is that we are and the type of person that we're presenting to the world. It's so easy. If there was ever anything that'd be easy to do, it's to just sit there and just be status quo as far as who I am. Because guess what? Your name is Dom. You're from here. You do this. That's who you are. Case closed. Right? But no. Why can't you go ahead and take a second look and reinvent yourself?
You may not be where you want to be.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I've told this story before, but I went to a trip. It was my first time to Boston. I went there for my sexuality educator series. So I got certified in sex ed. So if you ever need any tips or anything like that, let me know. But so I went there for that, and the guy that I stayed with, great guy, Salvador, excuse me, and he told me something that was awesome. He told me, don't be afraid to reinvent your life, reinventar tu vida, and I thought that was awesome. Again, taking a second look. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. You were driving a cab. How did you go from driving that cab for 4 years to law school?
Well, I was always going to go to law school, but I drove a cab with two reasons. One was I wanted to make money, support myself, although my parents were helping me. But driving a cab at night allowed you to not only make money, but allowed you transportation if you were taking out a lady. Are you trying to tell me? Yes, I did that.
You started driving a cab?
I did that, yes.
For girls? To get girls?
Well, no, to have a
way to transport them around?
That's right, yes. I know it's sad.
I should have known. It always comes down to the girl.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's... So I did that all through undergrad school.
But it led to good things for you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so...
I skip a sport coat.
Right. But that's not how you met your beautiful bride, is it?
No.
You weren't giving her a ride
no, I was not.
to church or something. No. And like, hey, you want to go out?
No, that was the conventional way. Some people introduced us in the same building I worked at.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's good. And she's doing well.
She's doing fine. God bless her.
Now, in talking about reinventing yourself, what's next for Dom Fichera? Because I know that you're not just ready to sit here and put your pen down and just be done with your goals.
I thought of a few things. I started an article called Greed because of the present atmosphere in our country. And I believe that greed is what's stimulating a lot of these problems we have.
What do you mean?
What
do you mean?
Because I think some people just don't have enough money.
Right.
And they have to have more. For what reason? Other than the fact that they want to be able to say they've got more money. And I think it's causing a lot of problems. I think the Russian oligarchs are giving too many people in this country wrong ideas.
I mean, you're constantly pushing, Again, you're constantly putting your name down on another piece of paper, I mean, still, and I have so much respect for that. But in addition to that, and I swear one time, I don't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about something, and it was about the little guy, and you got so passionate and so heated up. Yeah. Some veins started popping out in your forehead, sweat started pouring down. I mean, you were dropping profanity. I mean, you were going at it because you're passionate about the little guy. Yeah. You want to stand up for the little guy. Yeah. Why?
Well, tell you a story. You know the word Caruso? You ever heard the singer Caruso?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
There's a word in Sicilian called Carusi. And Carusi was the name given back in the early 20th century to the little boys who were leased by their parents to the sulfur companies. The job of these boys from 8 to 12 years old, their job was to go down the silver mines and these ladders, wooden ladders, and scrape sulfur off the walls, put them in cloth sacks and carry them up to the top. They used to lease these kids out for like $50, $75, which was in those days was a fortune. The family could not get the boys back unless they could pay that, and they never could pay that. So as a result, these kids were indentured servants. They would work until none of them lived past 20, 25 years old. It was not the kind of life that's going to allow you to live much longer than that. So that's an awful thing to have to. And you know what bothers me, and I'm going to write something about that someday if I'm still alive. Sicily talks about how wonderful it is, and Sicily is a wonderful place. I've been there many times. The people are great. The temperature is great. It's beautiful. You got Greek antiquity there. Food, everything is wonderful there. And you hear about that, but no one ever talks about the Cruci. That bothers me. You know, that's their history, and we should know about it. I learned about the Cruci from a book I read. The book was called The Man Furthest Down. It was written by Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington had been a slave, and he went looking for the man furthest down. And when he gets to Sicily, he talks about the way the Sicilians were living then. And he said, there's no black in the deepest South whose life compares with the average Sicilian. I said, my God, that's got to be something. So I read about it, and that's what he was talking about. And that's the way we treat people. And the rich, that's the way the rich treat the poor. They use them as slaves. That's what they do. So, you know, you ask me why, and these are one of the things that I think about when I see poor people. I represent a lady about 3 years ago whose child became brain damaged because of medical malpractice. And she was Mexican. Her husband left her, went back to Mexico, and she was living in a car with her baby. How the hell we allow that in this country? In a car. The Code of Ethics does not allow me to give her money to live because they say that's called champery. I'm instigating a lawsuit when I shouldn't be bothered with that. They don't allow me to do that. But the same bar association will allow a corporate company to keep from paying their bills to a big defense firm for months because they just want to. So if that's not a loan, what's a loan? You know? So anyway, right. Just hypocrisy and that sort of thing. We're the richest country in the world, okay? We should be able to feed, clothe, and educate everybody. It doesn't at the top of the line, but we should be able to do that. And we got people telling us we can't do that. Of course, that's a bunch of BS.
Right.
So, you see that through your life. And
look, the bottom line is that we're capable of doing more, you know, as a people. The question is whether we want to or not, and whether we get why it is that we should. Is it human nature for us to want to use those beneath us as a stepping stone to achieve more? I mean, is that maybe just what we are? And that's something that I grapple with all the time, which is like, damn it, maybe just what we are is this. Because if we were something else, then maybe we have already created another reality for ourselves.
You may be right. We may have no choice.
Right, which is a scary thought.
But I think we should try to point out that this is not right, guy.
Well, you do have a choice, right? You can choose the type of life it is that you want. And so I'd rather fight for good than for not.
Yeah.
But that makes me think of something too, and what you were talking about, the difference between, equality and equity. If I go ahead and I take a group of people and they're all different heights, you got a really short kid, you got a medium-sized kid, and you got a tall kid, and they're all standing by a fence. What is equal is to give each one of those kids the same size step stool so they can see over the fence, right? But at the same time, for the really short kid, that stool's not going to do anything. What's equitable is to go ahead and give somebody the right stool they need so that they can all see over that. And I don't want to get super political because that's not my thing, but at the same time, when it comes to maximizing your potential, it's not really an even playing field at all times.
And I think it goes deeper than that. Sometimes people do not react to other people naturally. They may say something, but we know police officers who don't think certain people are as human as they are. So their reaction to that person is different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another problem, probably for another discussion. But
we'll have to bring you on for that one. But we do have choices. Okay, and I don't want to sit here and make it sound like we don't. We do have choices, and we can choose. And I do think that you have an opportunity. I had a conversation with a young lady just today, and she was talking about her circumstances, what was going on with her life, and the challenges of her current circumstance, going through the divorce that she's going through, and the fear that she had. And I go, it doesn't matter what your circumstance is. You still have an opportunity to claim a certain amount of how it is that you're going to feel about it, the intention that comes with it. I think back to, even if you want to go ahead and look historically, even at Jews in the Holocaust, horrible circumstance. But they ultimately said, many came together and said, they can take away our lives, they can take away our flesh, but they can't take away the fact that we are Jews. Mm-hmm. That is claiming a certain amount of power that you have over your circumstances. Mm-hmm. People get dealt terrible cards all the time, but you still have the power to choose how it is that you're going to feel about it and what you're going to do moving forward. Mm-hmm. How do we maximize that power, though, within any given situation? Where do you go inside to really find the strength to make those decisions? It's tough for a lot of people. Yeah. It's a hard place to navigate. There's no GPS for that.
No. We saw it with the Holocaust, you're right. How they were able to do that in good conscience. I visited Dachau when I was in Germany. It makes you want to cry. Why? How?
What do we need to do to be better as people?
Well, some say religion, Maybe that works. I don't know. I'm different when it comes to religion. Different philosophy.
What's your philosophy? I want to know, just because I want to know if it's going to help me.
My philosophy about religion. Okay, I went to my mother was Protestant from Sicily. My father was Catholic from Sicily. Okay, which doesn't seem logical, but that's true. And so I went to I was baptized Catholic and went to Catholic grade school from Immaculate Conception. I go to Mass in the morning. Sunday, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Mass, and then in the afternoon I go to Moody Bible for the Bible classes. And sometimes on Saturday I'd be what's called the Shabbos Goy. I would go to the temple and do things for the rabbi. So
and Saturday Shabbos.
Yeah, Shabbos. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So religion. I've known religion for a long time. After all that, I went to Catholic high school, colleges, and that sort of thing. And I don't go to church. And my mother and father never went to church either. And it was strange for people, I just don't, we just never did. And my mother and father are two of the nicest human beings I've ever known, okay, and they never went to church. Something happened not too long ago. I was at a wedding, and one of the people sitting with us, she says, "Oh, did you hear, what did you think of the sermon this morning?" What's the sermon? I said, I don't go to church. You don't go to church? Why don't you go to church? I never thought about it, but at that moment, it just came out. I says, well, because I found the secret. She says, the secret? What's the secret of not going to church? I said, well, I found the secret of my religion. She says, what is it? I says, I respect everybody. No matter who they are, I respect them. I said, that covers it all. And if there's someone who I cannot respect because they've done something that allows me not to respect them, then I want to know from them, let's discuss it. Why is it you're doing what you're doing, and you put me in a position where I can't respect you? Okay, and that's my religion, and it's worked. Period. I don't need anyone to tell me they're going to communicate with my God for me. They don't tell me what to do. My mother and father showed me what to do when they were raising me, so I don't really need it.
Respect and understanding.
Yeah, that's all you need. And if you do it honestly, what more do you need?
I don't know, but I feel like that should be the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's and a church is great for people if it's good for them. If it makes them better people, God bless them. I don't need it. My mother and father did the best they could with me.
Respect and understanding. It makes me think of something. I was working with a client years ago, and a great guy. And he ended up with cancer, and so we were working together, like kind of the last stages of life, and it was so fascinating. I was a little bit younger man then, and I had the hardest time understanding like why this guy is in so much pain. you know, he could go any day, yet he called me up, you know, and said, hey, I want you to come over and train me. And his reason was, like, well, you know, Perry, like, why are you doing this? You know, he's like, I don't want to die weak. And I thought that was fascinating. And like, he didn't want to die weak. He wanted to die strong. So he was going to sit there and he was going to fight, persevere, if you want to talk about that. But, you know, during our conversations, you know, you talk about sitting there and having, you know, meaningful conversations. Everything that came out of this man's mouth was profound, mainly because he really didn't know if he was going to see me for our next session. And so one time I said to him, I go, you know what? I go, what's the key to making a marriage work, a relationship work? And he says, well, you know what? I can't tell you because I've been married 3 times and I haven't figured that out. But he goes, but this is what I can tell you. I can tell you how to ruin one. And I go, okay, well then tell me how to ruin it. He goes, by being selfish.
Yeah.
By being selfish. He goes, that's exactly how you're going to ruin the relationship. And what you're talking about by talking about religion, you know, and your secret there, what we're really talking about is a relationship.
Yeah.
It's a relationship with yourself, a relationship with the people around you, and a relationship with, if you do believe that there's something going on behind the scenes, then fine. But this whole idea of respect and understanding, you know, take a moment to simply strive to respect and understand those around you and respect and understand yourself. That's massive. Yeah. It's something that I don't think people do enough of these days, which is to sit down, give themselves the respect and the attention they deserve, and try to grapple with and understand who they are and who it is that they're growing to be. It's tough. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
But I think people need to do it.
They're distracted so much now. There's so many things that need their time and attention. They don't really get down to the basics of their life.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, your grandson, who I know you're super proud of.
Dominic.
Named
after me.
Right. He's got the hands.
Yes.
He's got the athletic ability.
That's right.
He's got all that. You know, what do you say to Dominic? You know, if he comes to you now and he's grappling with all these things. How do you coach him?
He doesn't come to me often enough. I really
see your grandfather.
I really enjoy his company. He's a neat kid. By the way, he plays out of Milwaukee now. He's only 12 years old, and
is he 12 already?
12, yeah. And he's going to go at the end of this month. He's going to go to Sylvania and play hockey there.
Yeah. They
picked 12 kids from the country or something to go there and play in Sylvania. So
he was killing it on the ice at 5.
Yeah, God
that
bless
never
him.
Stopped.
He's really a nice kid. I am proud of him. Happy. Is he wood around here?
Is he? I think this thing might be some type of wood. But is he? But I mean, when he was younger, he was undersized, but physically. But he had the heart of a lion.
Right, yeah. No, he's still sort of undersized.
Yeah, but the heart of a lion.
Yes. Oh yeah. He's a great little kid to be with.
What would you say to him during, you know, if he came to you and was like, you know, Grandpa, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can make it through.
Well, if you don't think you can make it, then you won't. But he's not like that. He's smaller than everyone on the ice, but there's no one tougher or works harder than he does. He's an example.
Was he just born that way? Because I mean, you were telling me he was like that at 4.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. You know, that may be it. And I think a lot of stuff we're born with. That's probably the case. He was a tough kid from the beginning, and he was always smaller than everyone. That may be part of it too.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? Life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, maybe harder for some than others, but you got to be tough.
It's good to learn to fight early.
Yeah, yeah, and to make sure that we don't, you know, take the fight out of us. I don't think that the struggle is to lose that fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, for so many people, you know, they're fixated on making things easier for their children. I don't think we need to make things easier for our children. I think we just need to help create more opportunities. But to make things easier, I don't want to take the fight out of my kids.
No.
And you don't want to take the fight out of Dominic.
No.
You know, you want to present opportunities, but you know what? You're still going to have to scrap to maximize the potential of that opportunity. I think that's important for us as people, you know, and I don't want to take that fight out of my kids.
That's exactly right.
You know, so incredible.
They're going to need it later on.
Well, you're damn right they are. You know, I mean, I don't care who you are. Even if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, life is hard. It's going to come for you no matter what. You need to be ready to handle whatever it's going to bring for you. You know,
I discussed earlier, those born with a silver spoon and still have the fight. That's a special breed.
well, for sure.
Yeah, it's a special breed.
And the world needs Bruce Waynes. You know, I've always said that. People want to talk smack about people that have means or have had success. I think we need those people, you know. And like you say, those people that have success, have money, but are still getting up there every day, putting on the cape and the mask, and going out there and fighting for the little guy.
Yeah.
Those are people that you have to respect
Yes.
greatly, because I think we need those people. Dom, you're incredible. Okay, your story. Your story is awesome. You know, I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about, you know, and that you could share with us. How can people get more of you? Where when you do write your articles, where are those articles? Where can people kind of get a little bit more? And do you want to plug your company, your firm?
No, it's Fichera and Miller. Yes, we do personal injury work, but I don't I get published with. There's a newsletter, the Justinian Society, and they publish everything I send them. But it's only available to lawyers who belong to the organization. But I want to do one of those things with the, what do you call that?
The blog.
Blog, yeah, I want to do a blog because I think I'll enjoy that.
All right. So
you're going to set it up for me.
I'm going to set it up for you, and I'll
That's
make
the
sure.
charge. That's the charge for me coming here.
That's right, and I'll make sure that I plug it for you and make sure people know where to get you, because you do. You're a wealth of information. It's incredible. So thank you so much.
Pleasure being
the
here.
Hands, they're massive. You know,
don't believe him.
No, they're massive. You know what? Dom is right. Life is loaded with opportunity, but sometimes you have to take a second look to see what's really there for you. Don't be afraid to have enough respect for yourself to get out there, take a look at your life, look in the mirror, wipe the fog away, as some people say, and take a second look at what might be right in front of you. We have so many opportunities here. All you guys listening here, I want to motivate you to maximize your potential personally and professionally. But you have to have respect, and you have to be willing to understand. Take a moment to understand yourself. Take that second look and remember exactly what Brother Leo said. All else fails.
Put your name on the paper.
Just put your name on that damn paper and get it started, okay? This is Chris Falcon here, The Rebel Mindset. I want to thank all the guys here behind the scenes at MediaPods. Go to MediaPods.com, and also go to TheRebelMindset.com. And also check out Amazon. We've got some Rebel Mindset gear on Amazon as well. So go ahead and put in The Rebel Mindset, and you'll find some teas there for you. And make sure that you like us on iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating. I'll be back in here next time with another guest. You can check out TheRebelMindset.com to see who we have. I don't even remember who we have next time in here. But it's going to be somebody great. Again, helping us maximize our potential in the world, and doing it while sticking our middle finger up to the status quo and conformity. Thank you guys so much for listening. Rebel on.